you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick Podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick Podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. The Eye Test with Pierre, McGuire, and Jimmy Murphy.
The Stanley Cup winning Colorado Avalanche And after 22 years, Raymond Mark!
The sickest NHL podcast. Brought to you by TCS Customs and Logistics. Moving pieces, delivering peace of mind. It's gonna be sick.
Whoop, get that camera on. I apologize. Jimmy Murphy, Pierre McGuire here on the Eye Test on the Sick Podcast Network on Wednesday, April the 9th. We've got a great episode ahead for you. We're going to be joined shortly by the agent of one Ivan Demidov, who is probably the hottest name in the NHL circles right now, signed with the Montreal Canadiens, his ELC yesterday, and his agent Dan Milstein will be joining us shortly to discuss that and what we can expect from Demidov as he transitions to the NHL. But Pierre, before we get to that, I do want to start the show, and I want to personally, as your friend and your partner, offer my sincere condolences for the loss of NHL executive Ray Shero. I know how much it meant to you, and I'll just let you comment on that.
No, first of all, thank you for the introduction, and I'm sure the Shero family are, thinking of what you just said, Jimmy. Not an easy day. Some of us known for a while that things were not going very well for Ray health-wise, and this was a really tough morning. Jimmy knows, and he never said anything to anybody. That's why I trust him so much. I was supposed to fly to Arizona this morning, and as I was about to board my flight, I got a call from the people in Arizona just saying that Ray had passed this morning, and that there was nothing more that they could do or I could do or anybody could do. So I actually came back to where I am right now and got on a Hockey Hall of Fame selection committee call. And I had some very good conversation with Ray, before. And the only regret I have is I didn't get a chance to see him, at the end. But he was an amazing friend, loyal as the day is long, brilliant executive, brilliant, not a little bit smart, really smart. I don't think he ever got enough credit for some of the creative deals that he made as a manager, whether it was in Pittsburgh, coaching changes, whether it was in New Jersey, bringing in a guy like Taylor Hall, who ended up winning the MVP, getting the Devils, a team that really never should even be considered a playoff team, getting them into the playoffs. And, the help that he's given Billy Guerin in Minnesota over the last 4 years has been stupendous. But we always had our own little special relationship, and it lasted almost 40 years. And I'm forever grateful for those times.
Yeah, before you and I became close, I always used to see him anyhow up in the press box. And he always had time for everyone, Pierre. That's one thing I noticed for him. Always smiling.
He loved the game, and he loved the people around the game.
Yeah, that was the one thing I noticed. You would see him go up to the security guards, to scouts, management, to players. I mean, he always had time, literally, for everyone that would cruise by him, and you know what it's like. You go into places and everyone knows who you are, and you do the same thing. And I love that about you, but not everybody does that. It's a quality that I admire a lot, and I saw that in him. And then, of course, once you became close with me and he knew that we were tight, he really took me outside and would talk hockey as well. So again, yeah, you mentioned Billy Guerin there. I reached out to him, and if he's watching, Billy, we're thinking of you, and we're thinking of the whole hockey family that knew Ray Shero, because there were a lot of people that he touched.
He's got two sons, Christopher. I was at the hospital the day Christopher was born in Ottawa. I was working for Ottawa, so was Ray, and we were in the office, and he said, Karen, his wife, was about to give birth. He says, "You're coming with me. Let's go." So I went to the hospital with him. Yeah, pretty amazing. Now Christopher works for the Columbus Blue Jackets, and he played at Boston College. And his other son, Kyle, who's getting married in about a month and a half, Kyle works for the Philadelphia Flyers. And so his father is thrilled and proud of him for that. And can you imagine his grandfather, Freddie, and how happy Freddie would be to know that, Kyle's working for the Flyers as well. So I had good memories, and it's amazing how many people called. They knew a little bit about Ray and I, but they didn't know everything. And kind of the coolest part about it is we met, and neither one of us had any money, and we were starting out in the business.
Oh, okay.
So cool. We'd go on these recruiting trips. I had the car and the recruiting budget as a college coach, and he was just starting out as an agent. He had just been released by the LA Kings as a player. And, he was in training camp. People don't talk about this nearly enough about Ray. He was in training camp when LA had the Triple Crown line, and people don't even know that about Ray.
I did not know that myself.
Ray was a gunner. He's a good player.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of stuff done. So, I mean, I look at it now. So, a lot of people, they rue this day. I only think of the great. I look at it another way. I only look at the great things that I had a chance to do with him, and the great relationships that we've had over the years, and seeing his children get born, or being around for special moments, or being at his dad's funeral or wake, that kind of stuff. So I only think of great things when I think of Ray. I don't think of, the fact that he's passed. That hurts, but I try to think of the good things.
Yeah. Yeah. And, before we move on here too, I want to send my condolences out to the family of a friend of mine, another friend, 2 in 1 week, Pierre. Well, I guess they go in threes. Yeah. Let's hope that's it. Pat Brennan of Holyoke, Mass. He owned Brennan's Pub in Holyoke, where I bartended in college. I've told you many times about it, Pierre. And actually, if you go in there, the first article, he hung it up. I had no idea he was going to do it, but he was so proud of me when I got my first article printed in the Boston Metro. He framed it and put it up right behind the bar. And I came in there and he said, that's staying there forever. And it's still there 20-something years later.
I like that. That's good. It's cool, Jimmy. You told me about this gentleman, and then you sent me his obituary. Yeah. And I thought that was really cool. I thought that
he was a hell of a pitcher. He helped Holyoke win the state title back in 1985 over BC High, heavy underdogs. But he was great. And he always thanked me, because when I was there younger and into hockey so much, he didn't really watch hockey that much. And I got him to get into hockey and into the Bruins. And to this day, he's been a giant Bruins fan. So my condolences out to his family as well for that. And passed, unfortunately, from ALS. I really hope we make some progress towards a cure for that horrible disease. All right, let's get into the hockey here, Pierre. As I said, we got Dan Milstein coming on. I cannot wait to talk to him. I know that there's Montreal fans right now tracking the path of Demidov coming over from Russia. And it appears as Dan actually spoke to RG Media and said that he will go straight to Toronto and, meet the Canadiens there when they get there after their game against Ottawa Friday night. So it looks like he's going straight there. But Pierre, you've said it, and we'll talk to Dan about this too. But I think the one thing, and we were just literally talking about an hour ago, the one thing we would urge, media and fans alike, is to just let him ease in. Understand there's going to be a little transition period. Nobody's questioning that this kid could turn into a superstar. He probably will. But if he comes in and he's, goes 3 games without a point, the sky's not falling, right? No. I mean, this is a young kid. He's got to adapt, and he will, and it takes some time. And I think, as you and I discussed too, another key, and you and Maxime Lapierre, I thought, nailed it last night on the post game with Tony Marinau, is who you put him with. And you both agreed that you think a great center to put him with to start things off in the lineup would be Jake Evans. So if you can elaborate on that a bit.
Well, just because Jake's going to cover up a lot of the blemishes he's going to have defensively, talking about Demidov. So, and that's not a knock on the player. That's just the role that has been created for him. He's going to have to learn to play a little bit better in his own zone, and he will. But Jake will be there to clean up some of the blemishes, and Jake also can open up a lot of room for him with his speed. And one of the things Jake does that's underappreciated, he can move the puck really well in transition. So that plays to the strength of a player like Demidov. And then the final part is Jake doesn't get those heavy defensive matchups, so he's not seeing usually the 1 or the 2 pairing. He's seeing the 3 pairing. And because you're seeing the 3 pairing, that opens up a little more room too for a player like Demidov, who's going to be so creative with a little extra room to work with when he has a puck on his stick.
I would imagine, Pierre, the adrenaline and just the excitement of being here is going to be, hanging with him right as he gets on the ice there for his first game. How whether it's a veteran player, like, somebody on the team, like a Brendan Gallagher or somebody, or anyone else, the coach, what have you, how do you help him channel that so that it doesn't work against him?
See, I don't know the player. I don't know the person. I know the player. Right. So I don't know how he is. Some guys you can work with really easy. Just bring them in the room one-on-one and you can tone them down. There are other guys that if you do that, they take it personally, think that you're going after them. and then it becomes a little bit harder to teach them. So you got to figure out what the person is first before you can really address what the player needs to do. But I'm sure they'll figure that out. One thing I sense about this player in particular, he's not shy and he's pretty confident.
Yeah.
So that's okay with a guy that likes the puck on his stick. You kind of want him to have that swagger. So I think that's more of a positive thing than a negative thing.
Well, we'll ask Dan about it in a second, Pierre, but just your reaction when you heard that he had a bonus in there if he gets the Conn Smythe winner. I'm like,
so what? That's good for Dan. Good for Dan for asking for that. I have no problem with that. I think that's great. That's swagger too. Yep. Dan's negotiated a lot of big deals, and I'm sure he'll probably take us inside. I hope he does anyway. Some of the art of the negotiation between St. Petersburg, Montreal, the KHL, Dan Milstein. Like, there's a lot of moving parts in this negotiation. Everybody just says, "Oh yeah, I heard what you said before, Jimmy," and you're not wrong. It's an ELC entry-level contract. But what do you have to do to get to that point?
Right. And that's what I want to find out.
And that's what we need to find out, because all the stuff that's out there, it's great. Trust me, this is a hard story to cover.
Yep.
But I haven't seen one person say, okay, this is how this manifested itself. This is how Dan Milstein and the Montreal Canadiens got Ivan Demidov out of St. Petersburg.
Well, you know what? Let's ask the man himself right now. Dan Milstein joined us here on the Eye Test on the Sick Podcast Network. Hey, Dan, how are you?
Hey, guys. Thank you very much for having me on.
Dan, great to see you, and thank you very much for joining us. Great stuff.
First of all, congratulations on getting Ivan over to North America and to Montreal. And as we were just saying, a lot of people, even Kent Hughes, didn't really touch on it much last night. He said all he could say was that a lot of stuff came together fast. And I understand there's probably a lot you can't tell us, but is there any light that you can shed on how this developed and how fast it went?
Well, the whole thing began shortly before the NHL draft last summer. So Ivan told Scott that his intentions were to join at the conclusion of his contract to join the Montreal Canadiens, or the team that was going to draft him. And then later, obviously, was the Montreal Canadiens. And much credit goes to Scott, his head coach, who basically did not pressure him. Unlike in some of the other instances in the KHL, they basically worked with him. They helped him to develop. I know that some of the fans perhaps did not like the ice time or what have you, but in the end, they did a phenomenal job developing him and getting him ready for the NHL. And the whole thing came together quickly within about 3 hours or so. We went from Ivan not coming to Ivan is coming, and let's put a contract together. So everything kind of came together on the napkin within a couple of hours yesterday.
Dan, in December, Kent Hughes, Vinny Lecavalier, and Nicky Bobroff spent some time in St. Petersburg. How much did that help facilitate some of what we saw yesterday?
Well, I was there as well. Obviously, it's all about the relationships in this business, and while I can't speak for some of the details, but obviously, some relationships were made, and there were some meetings between the two teams.
Dan, I'm wondering too, Pierre mentioned Bobroff there. How much of a role did he play in all this as well? Because we know, he's over there, and sometimes just discuss his role with the negotiations.
Can't really go into the details. Nick is doing a phenomenal job running the NHL draft for the Montreal Canadiens, and Nick and I have had a relationship since his days with the New York Rangers. But that's all I have to say about that.
Okay.
No, and that's fair. We're glad that it's like that. What's your expectation for Ivan when he comes in and puts on a Montreal Canadiens sweater?
Well, I met the kid when him and his family when he was only 12 years old. Usually, I don't sign players until they're 16 or 17 years old. But the same year, we met Artem Levchunov, the Chicago Blackhawks second overall pick, and Ivan Demidov. And I had to jump on a plane and go watch him, sign him, meet him. And so we did. So it's been a very, very long time, 7 or so years in the making. And I can't wait to actually watch him put the Montreal Canadiens sweater on and play his very first NHL shift.
How much he seems from afar and just reading stories like in RG Media as well. he seemed to really have been paying attention to a lot of what's going on here and learning the best he can about the environment that he's going to be entering right now. How much of that was important to you and to him as this season went on?
So 2 years prior to the NHL draft, we got him the English tutors. So he's been learning to speak English. When he showed up last summer to the NHL draft, he spoke fluent English without help of any translators. Little did we know that we would have to add the French tutor to the
Dan, how much do you think that this can help open up the thought process for other NHL teams when it comes to identifying Russian talent and not being afraid or intimidated of drafting them?
Guys, I really don't think anyone is scared, and the NHL teams are drafting the best players. Like, for example, 99% or so of NHL teams, they do have scouts in Russia. So from the New York Islanders to Toronto Maple Leafs, you name it, the Montreal Canadiens, they have presence in Russia. This past NHL draft, I had 16 kids into the NHL draft. Outside of a few Zane Pierre, notable first rounder, for the most part, kids were from Russia and from Belarus. And so we had no problem. Now, I had, obviously I had to put out camp in Miami, and I'm going to do it again. It was one of a kind, whereas I brought all 32 NHL teams. Many general managers came and watched our prospects. They were able to interview them, watch them on ice at the gym and stuff like that too. We're going to do the same thing this year because not everybody at the GM level can actually make it to Russia at the moment. But, teams should not be afraid to draft Russian players. In my opinion, you should go for the best available. And I just know where they're at.
But when you look back on last year's draft, right, there'll be a lot of people, and I'm going to be one of them, that say, I think he was better than some of the players drafted ahead of him. How do you explain him dropping like that? Do you think it's just situational with the teams?
Well, just obviously Artem Levchinov, second overall pick, is also our client. So I've been saying this for a number of years. But we'll know in about 5 or 10 years who should have been the first overall for sure. So, I'll just leave it at that. And the time would tell, and the time would judge. And hopefully 5 or 10 years later, everybody's going to look back and be like, you know what, maybe Ivan should have been, selected elsewhere. But with that said, I'm reminded of the Hall of Famer client story, Pavel Datsyuk. Pavel was told no 657 times. He was not selected the first year of his draft. He was not selected the second year of the draft. He went 171st in a sixth round, third year of his eligibility. And in the end, he became the Hall of Famer, won 2 Stanley Cups, the Olympic gold medals, and won anything and everything possible. So with that said, draft is just a number. This is just a starting point. And I don't think kids, the agents, the parents should really worry too much where they're drafted. I mean, look, Ivan is going to a phenomenal team. It's going to be very difficult market unless he comes in and scores, 3 goals every single game. and even then, it might not be enough for some people. We'll see. But with that said, I'm excited for Ivan. That's good stuff, and I can't wait for him to play his first NHL game for the Montreal Canadiens.
You talked about Levchinov, the second overall pick to Chicago, who's now part of their organization after leaving Michigan State. Dan, you're really plugged into the Russian hockey infrastructure. Are they worried at all that more players will go the college route in the United States and leave Russia in the development programs to go play college?
You see, I don't really think that most kids should go. Artem's a little bit different story. He's from Belarus. He's a right shot offensive defenseman. For his development, it was the best to come in and play in North America. As a matter of fact, at the time, Russians and Belarusians, when he was entering the juniors in North America, were not allowed to be drafted in the CHL. So I picked up the phone, called Mike Leone, who in the past was the coach of the US NDTP program, and I said, Mike, you're gonna have I'm gonna send you a kid, a son whom you never had. And he left at me. Green Bay selected him 160 something overall in the USHL draft, and that when he did show up, they were amazed. Now let's go back to the development programs. In Russia, they have a phenomenal. Things have changed over the years, right? And so they have great development programs. So I am not for taking the kids out at the age of 16 and 17. There's no such thing as one glove fits all, but the Russian goaltending, I represent a lot of the goaltenders from Russia here in the National Hockey League. No offense, but if Russia was playing at the Canada Cup, a Russian goalie number 5 or 6 would have been probably 1-2 on some other teams, right?
That's good. Dan.
So why would I pull a kid out of his home at the age of 16 or 17 and bring him to North America, where the goalies aren't developed as good as they get developed in Russia? Talking about wingers, talking about some of the defensemen. There's no recipe. I have a lot of clients that have done a great job developing here in North America at juniors. And then also we have quite a few success stories, such as Ivan Demidov and many others, who have done a great job developing and coming in under under time when the time was right into the league much later at the age of 22, 23, and so on.
Dan, you look at the KHL and the NHL, there are some slight differences, obviously, whether it's rink size or what have you, the style of the game maybe. How do you think he will adapt to the North American game, and how quickly do you think that will happen?
Well, I don't want to put a timeline. I don't want to get people excited, but I am very excited. I'm trying to keep myself in check, and the time will tell. Just look. It may or may not take some time. Obviously, my other client and good friend Nikita Kucherov was able to score the goal in the National Hockey League with his first shot, and I hope Ivan can do the same. But with that said, no pressure. My advice to him would be to just go out there and have a good time, and just remember each and every shift, every second, because you only get to live once. And you know what? I'm very thrilled and jealous, and I am actually jealous. I would want to be, I want to be next to him at the time, and so it's amazing.
Dan, you talked about Kucherov and how good he is. How about how good their team is?
Tampa?
Yeah.
I have clients on 28 or so NHL teams, so I'd rather not. I don't get paid like you guys to the big bucks to talk up or down some of the teams, right? So look, let's put it this way: Tampa, they have a great team. They have a phenomenal goaltender, Andrei Vasilevsky, who also happens to be my client as well. Julian Brisebois is a good friend. He's done a great job putting the team together. But how about the Montreal Canadiens? Look, November, December, who would have thought that they would be in the playoffs? Another credit goes to the Columbus Blue Jackets. I was on the phone with their management yesterday. The beginning of the season, they were going to be probably, everybody thought that they were going to be competing for the first overall in the upcoming draft. They've done a great job. Unfortunately, Marchenko, my client, got injured, missed some time. Moynihan, some of the other guys, but obviously what happened with Johnny Gaudreau. But I think if there was a price of some sort in a National Hockey League, Columbus Blue Jackets, to me, probably should be winning that.
Dan, obviously Montreal's got a great coach in Marty St. Louis there, and he's done an amazing job developing these kids. How excited are you for your client to be going into a coaching environment like that, where they're very willing to work and grow with the player?
It's awesome. Marty St. Louis, the Tampa Bay Lightning's royalty, a phenomenal coach, and I think Ivan could benefit from and will benefit from Marty's experience as a player, and what the adversity that he went through as a player. People don't talk about it, about his size and what he had to go through in order to make the NHL. And so I think he can relate to Ivan, and I'm hopeful that those two would hit off, and hopefully someday at the Hall of Fame acceptance speech, maybe Ivan can remember about his first NHL coach.
Jimmy, I'm going to leave it to you on that one, because I can't talk about the Hall of Fame stuff.
I got one more though I want to ask you, Dan, just for the fans out there and whatever, anyone. what's something about Ivan, about his personality or his game on the ice that maybe from afar we don't know yet that we're going to fall in love with over here?
He is the most down-to-earth kind of a guy. And the only thing I tell you is that don't tell him that he's got a superstar potential. The kid has no idea. He has no idea. He's always smiling. He's happy. He picks up things. He learns things. And but he truly, to be honest, he has no idea how good he is. He has no idea. So let's not tell him about the little secret we have here.
Hey, Dan, I know you've had so many great clients over the course of your career, but I'm going to tell you one thing. One of the greatest tributes to you is Pavel Datsyuk. Just going to tell you that right now. What an unbelievable gentleman. And to watch him go into the Hockey Hall of Fame last year was amazing. And I know how proud you are. But I just wanted you to know, like, from everybody that's made their living in hockey over the course of Pav's career, what an amazing person. Really a tremendous person.
Thank you. He's a great friend. He's a great human being. And I owe a lot to him. And I've learned a lot being next to him over the years.
Jimmy, Pav and I last year at the Hockey Hall of Fame, he grabbed me, pulled me aside, and he was bragging on Dan. So it's kind of cool. It was kind of cool to see how that all went down. It was good.
Thank you.
Dan, and I got to say too, Dan, I think what I love about you too is your presence on social media, how you interact with fans. I think it's great. I think we need more of that sometimes from agents and from management. So I got to credit you for that. Actually, one more question too. Given, everything that's going on in the world right now, where do you see Russia going right now in terms of getting active again in international hockey play?
Sport should be outside of politics. I truly hope that Russia would get to play at the Worlds at the international stage very soon under their flag. Russians are very proud. I mean, look, Alex Ovechkin, just broke the record. You've got Nikita Kucherov, you got Andrei Vasilevsky, you got all those guys that are making the NHL proud. And I hope that in the near future, we're going to see the Russian players playing. I mean, think about even at the Canada, the Four Nations tournament or whatever they call that thing. I mean, it should have been the Five Nations. We all know it should have been Five Nations, but it is what it is. I hope that the Russian players get to come back very soon, and they get to be a huge part of the international hockey community.
Great.
I agree, Jimmy. I'm backing Dan up on that 100%. You know what I said to you. It's not an international event, and it's not best on best unless the Russians are there. And I've said that many times, Dan.
He has. Dan, listen, we appreciate you taking the time. Best of luck, and good luck to Ivan as well.
Thank you, guys. We'll see you in Montreal hopefully very soon.
Can't wait to see you, Dan. Take care.
All right,
you.
Dan Milstein joining us here on the Eye Test on the Sick Podcast Network. Man, he's got quite the stable of clients there, would you not say, Pierre?
Christmas comes early in his house. Shesterkin, Vasilevsky, you start going down the line. Kucherov, Demidov.
Yeah.
Pavel Datsyuk. That was one of those. That was a gift that kept on giving.
Yep.
But they're all, first of all, Dan does real good work. He's professional. And I think he's done amazing stuff for his clients.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, you just look at, like you mentioned, Datsyuk there, and I was so happy you asked about him, Pierre. Given what he had to go through before he eventually got drafted, you're going to need an agent that's going to stand by you, that's really going to, pick you. Because I don't care what any kid says. It's crushing when that happens, Pierre. At first, you'll get over it, and you use it as motivation. Yeah. But it's great when you can have, that a guy like Dan in your corner to keep pushing you and, hey, listen, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. And sure enough, it happened. And now he's in the Hall of Fame. So credit to Dan Milstein for that, for his job in that. Look, Pierre, one thing I took from that I like is when he said that Ivan is very humble and that he doesn't, he's not getting caught up in the superstar stuff. He knows what he's walking into, but it sounds like he just wants to come over and play hockey. And if that's the case, the coaching staff of the Montreal Canadiens are going to be very excited about that.
Yeah, no, I think that's true. I think there's a lot of merit to what you're saying, Jimmy. My biggest concern is he's coming into the league at a tough time because this is when it gets supercharged, speed-wise, physicality-wise, nastiness-wise.
Yep.
And so as a young kid, he's 19. He never seen, you can play all the games you want in the Russian leagues and the junior leagues and all that stuff. This time of the year in the NHL is just a different beast. It really is. everybody thinks they know what it is, but until they get at ice level, they have no clue what it is. They have none.
The only thing I want to ask you too, Pierre, about that, because I'm thinking back as we were just discussing that, and I'm thinking of what's ahead for Demidov. I was thinking back to when McAvoy came in, and his first games in the NHL were against Ottawa in the 2017 first round in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Mm-hmm. And I remember talking to him during that series, and he's like, it almost made it easier for me because it was just go, 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 go. And you just sort of in the moment and you zone out and you don't have time to think and sit back and maybe, oh my God, I'm in the NHL. Like, what's going on here? You don't have time to sort of get nervous. You just go. And so, hopefully Demidov can channel that momentum, so to speak, of being in the playoffs. It's going to be interesting.
Very.
Yep. Going to be good stuff. But again, I like what you're saying. I think they got to put him with Evans. We'll see how that works there. Pierre, they're saying, so if he gets here Friday, meets a team in Toronto, it looks like his first game will not be Saturday, but rather
Monday. Chicago.
So I think that's good. Let him acclimate a bit.
Yeah, Tony and Maxie and I were talking about that last night. I wouldn't be in a rush to play him in Ottawa on Friday. I definitely would not be in a rush on a Saturday night and Hockey Night in Canada to play him Saturday. Just wouldn't be in a rush to do that. Plus, you're on the road, and it's a second and a back-to-back. I'd be more comfortable playing him in a game where Chicago already knows their fate. Montreal will know where they are on Monday.
Yeah,
they're going to know. They're probably going to know Friday. They're going to know. They're going to know on by Monday. They're going to know where they're at.
Yeah,
and so no problem there. And then obviously Carolina, the last game, no problem there.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're not playing till later on. You got some quality practice time to implement some thoughts to the guy. So I wouldn't be in a rush to play him Friday or Saturday.
When you were coaching Pierre, and I don't know, you can think of the player, or you don't even have to name a player, but when you had a rookie come in midstream in a season, whether it's this close to the playoffs or January, whatever, what did you keep an eye on in terms of his interactions with his teammates on the plane, practice? How did you focus on that and make sure that it was going smoothly?
What a good question. You know what? We did have a great example of that. It was Sean McEachran. He came from the 92 U.S. Olympic team, and we brought him in, and I'll never forget the first practice. He was out there. I was running it, and he looked at me, and he goes, "You guys practice like this hard all the time?" And one of the goalies said, "This is actually an easy practice." So it was pretty funny. And I just went up to him and I said, "Look, if you don't understand something, just ask, and nobody will get mad at you." And he, to his credit, Sean fit in really well. And when Mario went down in the second round in the Ranger series after game 2, he got slashed by Adam Graves. He broke his hand. Sean and Ronnie Francis really got elevated roles, hugely elevated. And obviously Kevin was great and Joey was great. All our guys were good. But those two, McEachran and Francis, got elevated roles. And Sean handled it really well. And I think part of what helped him a lot, Brian Trottier, we've talked about him numerous times. But, we could play Sean at center where he played at BU. He's on a line with Keith Tkachuk and Tony Amonte. Pretty good line. Mm-hmm. Or we could play him as a left winger. And, Sean played almost 1,000 games in the league, played a little over 900 games. That's an amazing career.
Yep.
That's a really good career. Yeah. So, but you talk about what we do. We watched every day, because after that first day, he said, "Do you guys practice this hard all the time?" I'm like, "Yeah, this is kind of easy." Yeah. And so we were watching him right from that point on, but he handled himself very, very well.
Yeah. You look at this roster right now, Pierre, and obviously they're not on the levels of a Trottier or Stevens or somebody like that. But who are some of the players, from what you know of them, both personally and from afar watching, that you think could step into that semi-mentor role right now for the Canadiens to help a kid out in a situation like this?
That's another good question. I would say Mike Matheson would be one.
Mm-hmm.
I would say that Nick Suzuki could be one.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't be surprised to see Cole Caulfield be one of them, just because he's been through it. I talked to Cole's billet today. He actually called me on the phone.
Wow.
His name is Mark Smith. He lives in Montreal, the same town that I grew up in. And Mark called me up because I had spoken about him yesterday with Mitch Melnick on the air. And he says, my phone blew up because you said my name.
Remember when you mentioned him there? Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, I look at it, and Cole learned so much from being around Mark. Mark's an amazing entrepreneur.
Right. That's not too far ago. That's not too long.
Yeah, no, it's not. An amazingly successful man. Mm-hmm. And, Cole could say, hey, this is what I learned from this gentleman. Bing, 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 bing. And these are the people that I met through this gentleman. Bing, bing, So just people like that. I think it's guys that have been through the process before that will help him. And Cole's one of those guys. I think Nick's one of those guys. Michael Matt. See, I said this last night on Tony's show. Michael Matheson is an elite hockey player. He's married to a former U.S. Olympian who played in the Olympics in hockey. She's the mother of his children, and they have an amazing relationship, and they live in Montreal, and he's a Montrealer.
Yeah.
And I know it's probably, one of those, like, do we really want to take another billet in? But I bet you if you ask Michael, he'd say, bring him on in. We'll take him.
Yeah, that's a good call. And he knows the city. He can tell him.
Oh, my gosh. He knows West Island where you used to live. Yep. He knows downtown. He knows how to get to Brassard, where the practice rink is. Like, he knows the deal.
Yep.
And I think that would be a good one. But if it's not him, I already told Mark Smith today when he called, I said, you should take this guy in.
All right. Well, I hope, once the season's over, and I hope that's not until mid-June, I hope Mike Matheson takes him over to McLean's Public House. That's what I hope there.
Well, if he doesn't, we will.
We will. We'll get him over there. And I hope
I just don't know if he's not old enough. Well, yeah, I guess he is in Quebec. He's old enough in Quebec.
Yeah, that's the great thing about Canada. There you go. And hello to our good friends over there at McLean's Public House. We miss you. All right, listen, let's get to our sponsors right now and my picks of the night. And then I see a lot of great questions over there, so I want to get going on that. Let me tell you about TCS Customs and Logistics. Unlock the full potential of your shipping operation with TCS Customs and Logistics. From around the corner to around the world, flatbeds to air freight, customs clearance to drawback consulting. TCS is a one-stop shop for all things transport, moving pieces, and delivering a peace of mind. For a no-obligation customs or freight quote, contact sickpodcast at shiptcs.com. Again, that is sickpodcast at shiptcs.com. And then, of course, Betway. You can still go all the way with Betway and get a free bet up to $200 if your first bet loses. So, again, it's only for new customers. So if you want to sign up, go right there to the QR code in front of you or go to the website, click on the details section, and create your new account and redeem the welcome offer. It is available in every province except Ontario right now, and is only available to new customers. Terms and conditions apply. You must be 18 plus, and please play responsibly. Let's get right to my picks of the night. Sick picks of the night.
It's time for Sick Picks, brought to you by Betway.
All right, Pierre, I'm going to go to the state of hockey. The Minnesota Wild hosting the San Jose Sharks. And, of course, the Wild are still in a great, tight playoff race there with the Calgary Flames. Those two teams will actually be playing each other on Friday. Looking forward to that one. But until then, they have to play the San Jose Sharks and get business done there. They are getting two of their best players, if not their best players, back in Kirill Kaprizov and Joel Eriksson-Ek tonight. I think that gets them going right off the bat. I'm going to take them on the puck line in the first period. We can get some positive value there at plus 130. And then I'm going to say, hey, Kaprizov scores in his first game back. You can get that right now at plus 180. All right, let's get to the Q&A. What do we got? Ethan Russell, best Ray Shero story. Rest in peace to a great GM. Pierre? There's so many.
I got a lot. I'm trying to think of one that's appropriate for our audience. Well, he did such a good job for his clients. I remember him celebrating. He had one player, I won't say his name, who signed a contract that had 36 addendums to the contract. And he called me up, and we both didn't have a lot of money back then. And he said, I'm buying, let's go out for Chinese food. And we did. And we had such a good night that night. We were telling hockey stories all night long. It was just the two of us. And it was just the player signed this huge contract, and he was a free agent, a college free agent. And I think the players got paid 18 years for 18 years the way the contract was. It was a crazy contract. And it was really good. It was an amazing contract.
Yeah,
But
I have an idea who it might be.
it was that was one of the nights I remember. That was a ton of fun. We had a really good time that night.
Great. All right, next question. Rick Springhetti. Rick, thank you. My condolences to both of you on the loss of your friends. We appreciate it, Rick. Question, if I may. I've always been fascinated by the scouting. What are some of the pitfalls to avoid when scouting a player? Good question, Rick.
Yeah, one of the biggest things, Rick, don't get overwhelmed by skill. Don't get overwhelmed by it, because the easiest thing to do is go in a rink and see the guy that's got the best hands or the best toe drag ability or the hardest shot. Follow the player and see exactly how hard he competes with and without the puck.
Mhm.
Does he get faster with the puck, or does he get slower? Does he make good reads defensively, or is he cheating on the wrong side of the puck to try to get offense? There's so many little things you can pick out when you're scouting, but don't get fooled by skill.
Yep.
I call those players scout foolers. Sure, there are a ton of skill players you need to have, but there's some guys that just cheat the game, and their skills really force you to take them. And eventually they become busts, and everybody's like, why was that guy a bust?
Yeah.
Because he cheated the game for offense.
Yeah, I always thought about it too here when I first started covering the game, and I'm starting to meet these scouts. And I forget who said this to me, but it was a great quote. He goes, "Look, every player you're scouting is skilled, or you wouldn't be scouting them, right? You got to look for the other things that make them great." And that applies to what you just said there.
Yep, 100%.
All right, next question. A to Z me. So is a rebuild over? I'm so confused and so excited at the same time. Go Habs, go.
I don't think it is.
No, and I think the Habs know that. I think they've handled this with tempered excitement, maybe even a little less excitement than I'd expect, to be honest. I think they're doing a great job.
I agree with what Jimmy just said. And I haven't heard anybody saying, oh, yeah, we're there. The rebuild's over. I haven't heard anybody say that. I think they've handled this unbelievably well as a staff, management side, marketing side, ownership side, coaching side.
Yep. Players.
I think they've handled it really well.
Yep. Everyone's preaching the same message, and that's huge. All right, next question. Alex Ivanowski, if you're Buffalo and Detroit and you just watched Ottawa and Montreal pass you on the rebuild timeline, what can you learn and improve upon from what they did? I know it's two different teams, but still. Pierre, I'll just say one quick thing I would do is bring somebody between the owner and the GMs, like Montreal did with Jeff Gorton for Kent Hughes. That's one key thing that I think, and we've all agreed on it here on this show, that's been lacking in Buffalo. They
did that in Ottawa too with Cyril Leader. Cyril Leader does a lot of the heavy lifting behind the scenes that people don't talk about. So I think your point, it should be followed with a lot of these teams. I think you're right on. Mm-hmm. What could they do, those teams? Jimmy, people might get mad when I say this. They need to play more as a team. If you look at Ottawa, Brady's, and even though he's hurt now, Brady has them playing more as a team. There were some selfish guys there for a while, but they got them to buy into playing as a team. And I think one of the things that scared them straight is when Josh Norris got traded out of town. Mm-hmm. Nobody wants to talk. Josh, a friend of mine, I worked with him. I think the world of the guy.
He was a popular guy in that dressing room.
Very popular. And when they saw their buddy get traded out of Dodge, because I think the owners thought everything was too comfortable, it got everybody's attention. So they played serious ball. Detroit hasn't really done much of that. They've brought in other players, but they haven't really traded anybody out, so to speak.
That's a good point.
I think it's going to be interesting to see what they do this offseason.
By the way, I know we didn't talk about the game much last night, but on the Detroit end there, I feel so bad for Confer missing that empty net.
Missing an empty net.
And I'm not putting it all on him, but he's gonna, he's gonna think about it like it's all on him. And I just hope he realizes it's not. I mean,
that's not on him. That could happen.
That was tough. All right, next question. Sound the siren. A bit differently than Demidov, Alex Nikishin, that's right, is rumored to be coming to Carolina. But I'd like to taper Canes fans' expectations of Nikishin coming in and actually playing now. What do you guys think?
I think he can play now.
Yep.
I do.
And maybe that's a little jolt they need right now. Sound the siren, You can't be. I know Rod's saying the right stuff because he knows his team way better than I know his team. Mm-hmm. But there's something missing there right now. And ironically, the other team I'd say that about is the team they're going to probably face in the first round, and that's the Devils. Both those teams are just like in a swamp or in quicksand right now, and they can't get out of it. It's brutal.
That's true. Very true.
Right. Next question. Alex Ivanowski, if you're Montreal, who would you rather play? Washington or Toronto? I say Toronto. Alex, I know this is so cliche, but if I'm Montreal, I don't care. Like we're going to the playoffs. That's what I care about right now. And whoever's the team in front of us, we'll deal with it. That being said, as a prognosticator, an analyst, I like their chances against Washington better than I would against Toronto.
I think Toronto has the best roster on paper.
Mm-hmm.
Now they just have to go on the ice and prove it. So I think that'll be tough.
Yep.
I think it'll be tough.
All right. Next question. Ethan Russell, do you see Jack Devine in the NHL after the college season? I've watched him in both the regional championships over the past 2 years. What an impact he has in all 200 feet of the ice.
He's going to have an opportunity in Florida. That's who owns his rights. And if he's not playing in Florida, he'll be playing in Charlotte. They'll be in the playoffs. But I've seen Jack play a lot. He's not the fanciest player. He's just a really good, as we just heard, he's a real good 200-foot player like Ethan was saying. That's what he is.
All right, next question. Ethan again, how does a team like Boston go through a rebuild while they have a top 5 player in the league that's in his prime? Man, Pasta just not stop. It's unreal right now. Not trying to blame anyone when I ask this or make Pasta feel special. Well, he is special, Ethan, and I get what you're saying. I think that is going to be one of the most interesting retools, rebuilds, whatever you want to call it, because of what Ethan pointed out there, that you do have, when healthy, a Pasternak Pierre, a McAvoy, a Swayman, a Hampus Lindholm. You want to reward them in their prime, but at the same time, you got to keep the future in the long term in focus. It's going to be a tough balancing act for management there.
They went out this spring. They signed a lot of college free agents. Mm-hmm. Don't tell me that, your scouting staff's not important. Let's see what those guys do. They're getting a chance to play in the American League right now. We'll see what their scouts come up with. I know they failed them last year.
Yep.
They failed them last year. Pro scouts in the West failed them last year.
Yeah. Yep. All right. Next question. Ethan Russell, do you think Zev Boyum will run the point for Minnesota on the PP1? Feel like that would really benefit Faber because of how good he is 5-on-5. It's kind of like a Lindholm McAvoy situation.
I don't know if they'll put him in there right away, but Boyum's really good. I've been showing him to Jimmy for a long time now. He's a really good player.
On that first time I saw him in person, Denver UMass game. Oh, unreal. All right, next question. Randy Workman, how many rounds do the Jets have to go before Helly gets respect?
Win one round.
One. Yeah.
Win one round.
Yep. Just one. By the way, Pierre, I'd be remiss. Another team in the Pacific there, and a team that Winnipeg's competing with, the Dallas Stars. What the hell happened there?
Well, that was weird, right? That was really strange.
3 goals. In case anyone didn't see, Dallas gave up 3 goals in the final minute of regulation. It's never been done in NHL history to lose a game to the Vancouver Canucks. That was
no, that was really different. I was like, no way.
Yeah.
I know I'm watching. I'm going.
Well, I was watching the other games, right? But I'm kind of seeing that score change, and then I go up. I'm like, what the hell is going on over there? Like,
yeah, it was different for sure. That's
different. Just one of those things, Pierre. I would think, like, you're on the ice, you're just like a deer in headlights, I guess.
Casey DeSmith must have been like, what's going on here?
I know. I felt so bad for him. He's had such a great year too.
Pew Suter was playing the role of 60 goal scorer last night at the end of the game.
Can he do that for 82 games? But
I don't know. But he's a good player. He's not offensive in his thing. Right. He's just miscast, exactly.
Yeah. All right. Next question. JRB. Russia currently has as many high-end goalies and wingers. Malkin is probably the last star center. Any reason why Russia hasn't put many elite centers or defense for that matter in the NHL recently? I'm not sure, but the goalie thing is unreal, right? I mean, we were so used to Canada for a while, but Russia's definitely the goalie factory now.
I think the Russians pump out a lot of good players.
Overall.
Yeah. Overall.
E-men, they crank out. They got some
we just talked about Pavel Datsyuk.
Yeah.
You can go around it. There are a lot of like that Sergei Fedorov guy was pretty good.
Oh my gosh.
You can go around like that Igor Larionov guy was not bad.
The professor.
You can go look at it all. they've been pumping out players for a long time.
They really have. All right, next question. Tim G, with 4 games left for Montreal, needing some rest for players, do you start resting them before you clinch or play until you're sure in? Yeah, after.
Right, you're in. I think what'll happen, they'll probably know by the end of Friday, one way or the other. We're either in or we're going to have to extend it a little longer. But if they're in, I would say if they do something real good on Friday in Ottawa, they might rest a couple guys. All
right, next question. Juice _031-017. If Demidov plays in the playoffs, who takes the final spot in the lineup, Heineman or Kapanen?
I'm going to say Heineman, because if you watch last night, Kapanen was basically stapled to the bench in the last little while of the game. So I'm going to say Heineman because he's been with the team most of the year. Even though he got hurt in Utah, he's been with the team most of the year.
All right, next question. Vincent Yoel. Hello, gentlemen. Great to be a Habs fan right now. Do players get a cut of their jersey sales and poster sales or hockey cards? Good question, Vincent.
I think that's part of hockey-related revenue, so
Yep.
They do.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't go directly into, hey, I sold 100 Jimmy Murphy, so I'm getting that money.
No.
It goes into the pool, but yes.
Yeah. And by the way, Pierre, I just want to let you know, too, I've been getting tons of texts, messages on social. A lot of people want me to pass along to you their condolences for Ray. So you're in their thoughts. All right.
Yeah, well, that means a lot. You know what? I'll pass them on to the Shero family too. But like I said, I'm looking at this as a glass being more half full and half empty. I'm cherishing all the great times I spent over 40 years with them.
You got to do it. I'm sure Ray would want it that way. Celebrate it.
Trust me. They'll at the right time we'll get stuff out there. And he was a special guy. We'll get it out there. It's really good.
All right. Next question. Juice _031-017. If the Canadiens clinch the playoffs this weekend, should they rest Montembeault for the final 2 games of the season?
Yes. But with one caveat, Jimmy, depending on what he says in terms of, hey, I want to maybe I get half the game against Carolina or on the last day of the season, or maybe I play the full game against Chicago, then I shut down for a week. But it depends on this is where I thought Scotty was so good with this and Bob Johnson was so good with this when we were winning cups. They would ask Tommy, what do you think you need down the stretch? Mm-hmm. And then they would talk to Joe Malash and say, this is what Tommy told us. How do you see it? So there was always communication. You just don't say, I'm the major domo and you're going to do what I tell you. You got to empower the player a little bit and the position coach a little bit too. But I think that's probably what they'll do. But I'd be surprised if he missed the last 2. They might just play him half a game, though. I could see that.
Yeah. By the way, I don't remember the GAA and the save percentage, but I do remember I heard this stat today on TSN 690, and it's amazing. In his last 10 home games, Pierre, he's 9-0-1 at the Bell Center. I mean, talk about a goalie that likes playing at home. Wow.
Well, you know what? I know everybody's saluting Montreal. I don't think I've seen too many teams play a better first period than Detroit did last night.
Oh, my God. And they don't
play a really good first period.
Over if not for Montembeault. Is that where you're going?
Yeah, 100%. I thought Detroit played a real good first period. And I was like, they get the second goal, this thing's over.
Yeah.
But they couldn't find the second goal. And I thought Montembeault was a huge story in that game.
Yeah. And I get, he was the biggest penalty killer, but the PK was big too, Pierre.
Yeah, Savard was good. Jake was good. Matheson was good.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right, next question. Randy Workman, Jimmy and Pierre, how many will Crosby play before he retires? I think at least 1 more season, maybe 2.
Oh, Jimmy, I think he's got more than that. It just comes down, does he want to play? I think he's got a lot. I think he's got a lot left in him. I really do.
I do think the where becomes a question in the future. All right, next question. Ethan Russell, do you see UMass looking to add a lot of players in the transfer portal? Not sure if you can speak on this, but there are a lot of big shoes to fill. Ethan, I said to Pierre last week, I was like, geez, UMass is getting raided by the pro signings right now. And Pierre, you want to tell him what you said to me?
You tell him.
He said, don't worry. They got a lot of good stuff coming in terms of recruits. And he wasn't even talking about the portal.
No.
So, yeah, I think I can't say I know for sure, but I would imagine that they're very active.
They'll play in the portal.
Yeah, they're studying it. So don't worry about them. They'll be okay, Ethan. All right, next question. Claire Capoletti, what are your thoughts on Xhekaj? Will he keep sitting out, or you think he'll get some more games? I think he'll get in some more games.
I think he'll get some more games, and I think if they play Washington, Claire in particular, Max and I talked about this last night. I don't think he plays the first game.
Let's just say this.
But if Tommy Wilson starts running around, which Tommy's, and that's not a knock on Tommy at all. That's that's his job. Then I think Arber eventually comes in, because you don't want Josh Anderson fighting him only because you need Josh. That third line so important for Montreal right now with Gallagher and Dvorak and Josh. So I think eventually Arber finds his way into the series. I just don't think he starts the series.
All right, next question. Andrew Moulton, can you speak to how this Habs rebuild has benefited the players drafted in the Bergevin era? It's actually a really good question.
Jimmy and I did this exercise yesterday talking about draft picks from 2012 to 2025. So most of that is Bergevin, and some of it is Gorton and Hughes. So Montreal's outdrafted the New York Rangers by a mile. We used two teams. We picked Rangers and Montreal because they're competing for the last wild card spot. And I think you would agree with me, Jimmy. It's not even close.
Yeah.
Montreal's outdrafted.
Some of that was under Bergevin. Some of that was under Bergevin.
So it's under Bergevin. So there were some players that were drafted there. And I think they've benefited really well from what's gone on here. I do.
Yeah. All right. Next question. Matt DeSmith, do you think now the goal record is broken? Will the Caps have any sort of emotional letdown come playoff time? I think we touched on this the other day, and we were worried about it too, Matt. I think that they were able to do it last Sunday. It gives them enough of a time frame to overcome that. But I do think if it had gone down to the wire, I think it was going to happen.
I think Matt's onto something. If it had gone down to the wire, Jimmy, I'm with you.
Yeah. All right. Next question. Fishing at a reasonable price, $4.5 million for one tryout year. Is Kuznetsov mature enough to play second center for the Habs next year?
Yeah, of course. He's absolutely is. But I don't know if that's the direction they're going to go.
Yeah.
I know he played with Demidov, and I know there's a relationship there. I just don't know if that's the direction they would go.
All right, next question. Zahal, what do you guys think Montreal does with their two first-round picks this season, assuming the Flames don't get up to a top 10 pick? Do you see Montreal keeping them? It's a good question.
They might use one of those and something else for a second center.
Exactly. They've got a lot of arsenal for
Stay
trade.
tuned.
Yep. TBD, as we like to say. All right, next question. Ethan Russell, do you see Lysell progressing every game? Ethan, I just want to confess, I didn't see last night, so I can't comment on last night. What I have seen up until then, no. I'll just leave it at that. All right, next question. Colby Dog, afternoon, fellas. Would the Habs be in the same spot with Doc in the lineup? Yeah,
I don't think it hurt having Kirby there. He was starting to heat up at different times. Would he be the second center? He might not be. He might be playing on the wing. They might put him over on left wing. They might move Line A over on left wing, and he plays right wing. But who knows? But he wasn't a drain. He was not a negative drain on the team.
All right, next question. Sound the siren. Guys, piggybacking on the Nikishin question, who would you sit? I'm not disagreeing, but Rod historically will play his guys.
Yeah, it's a good question.
I don't know. I don't have an answer for you.
Sorry. I don't have an answer either. That's a really good question.
We shall see.
Good question. Well, here's two I know he's not sitting. Burns and Slavin.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I don't know. He counts on Gostisbehere for a lot of offense.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I don't know what he would do. Maybe he plays 11 and 7. Maybe he plays 11 forwards and 7D.
Yeah. All right, next question. Juice _031-017. I know he's only 18, but could Macklin Celebrini be the best player in the NHL in the future? Could he be? Yeah. I don't know if he will be, but I think he's done a great job so far.
So just remember this name, Gavin McKenna.
Yeah. Exactly. All right, next question. John Zimmerman, would you bring in a Russian ex-Hab, Markov, to guide Demidov? Yes.
I would have no problem doing that at all. None at all. I think it's a great point, John. one of the things though I'd want to do before I did that, I need to see how Markey would fit in with the coaching staff that's there, and what his organizational feelings are, because it's a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
But I can tell you, when Markey was there and I was around that team a lot, he's a special guy. Like he's a Montreal Canadian through and through. He's a really, but until you get him into that environment, Jimmy, you don't know. You got to do that. So that's my only hesitation. But that's a great suggestion.
I like it as well. All right, next question. Gabriel Lamb, what's up, Gabe? What's your take on the Frozen Four? It's good to see some different teams have a chance. Gabe, and I'll tell our listeners out there too, in case you haven't seen yet, we posted it today. You had a great interview with Penn State head coach Guy Godowski. I urge you guys to check that out. He was really great, and he's got a history with Pierre too, so some good stories in there. I'm liking them right now. Cinderella team.
They're Cinderella, right? You
Yep.
agree? They're Cinderella.
I don't think
Denver's a blue blood. They're not Cinderella.
Yep.
BU's a blue blood. They're not Cinderella. Western Michigan's not Cinderella, though. They're not.
I would put them in dark horse. Does that make sense? Dark horse versus Cinderella?
Yeah, that's fair. Okay, I'll buy that. But Penn State is Cinderella.
Yeah. I wouldn't want to get in front of that freight train right now. And
No,
that's no offense to our good friend David Alfo in the Boston.
No. Just the difference is Penn State's got a really mature physical team. BU's got a highly talented, really fast team.
But young.
But they're young.
Yep.
And I'm telling you, these guys from Penn State, I know they play in a Big Ten football environment.
Mm-hmm.
They kind of play rollerball. They're tough.
Yeah. And, consider it's one game and it's not like in pro where it's a best of 7 or best of 5. It's momentum is so big. Now, could that momentum have died because there's been 2 weeks? I don't know. But just in terms of who's riding it right now, watch out for Penn State.
But if you were to ask me who I think could win, honestly, I think Western Michigan could win.
All right. I'm saying the Nittany Lions.
I know you are. You are.
Well, and by the way, too, I was so mad I forgot to ask Guy about it, because I want to ask you too this. Maybe have they always worn the football style helmets, or is that new?
No, as far as I know, they have.
I love that.
Just like Michigan. Michigan wears those maize and blue helmets. They've been doing that. And Notre Dame has the golden dome helmets. Yeah.
It's good. All right, next question. Ron LaRoque is a coach. There you go. He's a coach at Penn State, an actual coach. He was so laid back in that interview this morning. It was hard to believe. Hard to imagine he has a competitive bone in his body. Great interview. I'll let Pierre answer that.
Ron, I'm just going to tell you right now, I had him in the American Hockey League in Charlottetown, Prince Edward Island, back in the mid-1990s. That guy was grizzle, and he was tough.
Yeah.
He would dive face first in front of shots. He wasn't a great skater, but, man, he'd battle on the boards. He'd clear the crease. He's a tough cat. He was a competitive guy, really competitive.
And you can see that's translated into his players, too. I mean, that's kind of the way
I really enjoyed working with Guy. I've known Guy since then, so that's a long time ago.
Yeah.
30 years.
Yep.
I liked him as a player. I know he wasn't the cutest player, but he got a lot done. He did. Yep. He got a lot done.
He's a nicest guy. All right, next question. Franco, question: is special teams more or less important to playoffs considering there are less penalties? Can a stronger 5-on-5 team upset? Frank, I would say yes, it's very important. Of course, though, I got to cover a cup run of a team that I believe went into the third round, if I'm not mistaken, with only one power play goal at that point, and that's the 2011 Boston Bruins. That was the most oxymoron thing I've ever seen. It was amazing.
The New Jersey Devils one year, I think, had the 25th rated power play in the regular season. And then they went in the playoffs, and I think they were like number 1 or number 2.
Oh, wow. Just flipped the script, huh?
They just flipped it.
Wow.
And special teams matter. They do. They matter. But I would say 5-on-5 play matters a lot in the playoffs. A lot.
I don't know if this will make sense because obviously, Pierre, I mean, if a power play succeeds, you're getting a goal on the board. But how much more does a successful PK help a team in the playoffs in terms of momentum and shifting?
You know when it really helps? On the road. because you get the crowd out of it, and they get antsy. They're like, "What's with our guys? They can't score."
That's
And
what I'm thinking.
We used to take big pride. I remember, like, we going to MSG, or we going to Old Boston Garden, or you going to Chicago Stadium, and the fans are right on top of you.
Mm-hmm.
And penalty kill took a lot of swagger out of the home team if we were the visitors.
Yep.
A lot of swagger.
I agree. I was at those games that you did that to the Boston Garden. All right, next question. GG, Laval or Montreal next year for Fowler? You guys, you think he's ready for the big show, or 1 or 2 years of development in the AHL with Laval? I'm going to defer to Pierre here, but I would say start him in Laval unless he's just amazing in camp. I don't know. I'd say start him in Laval.
I'm with Jimmy. We've been doing this show too long. I'm not going to go against my partner. No way.
Thank you. But I kind of learned that from Pierre, so that's it. So I got to give you more credit there.
No, I'm not going against you on that, because it's absolutely what should happen.
Yeah. But anything can happen, and things can change between now and then. All right, next question. Andrew Moulton. Back to my question on Bergevin era players. Does Bergevin and the old scouting team get credit for bringing in guys like Caulfield, Gooley, or Struble? Or does the credit go to the development of the new staff? No,
they get credit. That's what we said.
Yeah.
Caulfield was at 15. Caulfield was a steal.
Yep.
Gooley was a steal. I saw Gooley play in Prince Albert. Then I saw him play in Edmonton. I was like, holy moly, did they steal this guy? Yeah. And I've been watching Struble since he played at Jimmy's alma mater at St. Sebastian's.
Yeah.
In Needham, Mass. I mean, let me tell you, like, they deserve a lot of credit for those picks.
Yeah. One could argue, Pierre, that, I mean, if you look at his last few years as GM of the Canadiens, his greater accomplishments were at drafting or at the amateur level than they were in the pro when it comes to Bergevin, I think.
I think they had big issues on the pro side.
Yeah. That was where it went wrong, in my opinion.
Yep,
all right, next question. Steve Lash, thoughts on Landeskog joining the Colorado AHL team? Awesome. I imagine after being out for so long, he'll need more than 2 weeks of conditioning, be game ready and playoff ready. Thank you. You're right, Steve. Don't rush it. You don't have to. They've got plenty of skill there, but I was really happy to see that news.
I think it's good. He knows what he has to do.
He'll
be ready to play. He's like,
it ain't his first rodeo.
No. He knows what he needs to do. He'll be ready.
All right. Next question. Zahal, if Kuznetsov gets another chance in the NHL, which teams could you see giving him a chance? I mean, I think Montreal explores it, as one of our questionnaires asked before. I think they at least explore it. I don't know if it happens.
Boston? What about Boston?
I don't see it in Boston. I don't know why.
So I'm going to go back to what I said to you the other day. If they're swinging for the fence and all they bring in are wingers and they don't start bringing in centers, then I just think that they're spinning their wheels.
Oh, yeah. They're just going to be mid for a long time. All right, next question. Franco, question. If you're an NHL player, what means more, the all-time scoring record or winning the cup? Winning the cup.
The cup for every player. And Ovi would tell you the same thing. As much as he's treasuring this record, his name is on the Stanley Cup forever.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, it's a cool thing. When you walk into the Hockey Hall of Fame and you're with friends or family, and you see the cup up there in the Great Hall, and you walk up to your year and you point it out to your friends and family, it's a cool thing. And you can talk about all the players that are on there with you and all the coaches that are on there with you. And you got a story about everybody. It's an amazing thing.
Yeah.
It's an amazing thing.
Yeah. And think about all the times that Ovi got bounced by Sid and everyone knocking him. He can't win the big one. I mean, when he won that was huge for him. All right, next question. Energized. Pierre, any way you can tell us about Artem Zub and how this guy was found? He doesn't get enough recognition for the job he does. I think you're absolutely right, Energized. Pierre?
Artem Zub is one of the most ferocious guys you'll ever meet. He reminds me a lot of Dmitry Yushkevich, who was a tremendous defenseman for Toronto back in the day. Heart and soul guy. He was found by the Ottawa Senators scouts long before I got there. They deserve a ton of credit. Artem Zub is a champion human being. I would do anything to help that guy. I think the world of him. I really do.
All right, next question. P, assuming there's only room for one going forward, who do you think is more likely to play as a center permanently, Kapanen or Beck? Or do you see a world where both slot in at center? I'd say Beck. No?
I'm thinking.
Okay.
I'm going to say Beck.
Yeah, I would say that too for now. All right, next question. Brad K, any comments on MSG Networks and the Blue Jackets letting Sam Rosen and JD respectively call the Rangers game on TNT tonight? Great move. Looking forward to watching it. Pierre and I were talking about it before. It's going to be great. I just wish there was a better Rangers team for Sam to enjoy in that moment.
Well, first of all, they were on the American side for the longest time. They were the measuring stick for a lot of local broadcasts. They were, and John was larger than life, and Sam understood that and let him do it. And John was great with Sam. They were really, their partnership was outstanding. And I'm telling you that as somebody who used to break the tapes down. So you hear them, you hear all the different broadcast groups, and they were as good as they were for a very long time. On the Canadian side, it was hard to go against Harry Neal and Bob Cole. It just was really, they were so good together. They were on the national stage. They weren't regional, they were national. So it's different than what Sam and JD were doing, you know. But man, they were good. And I like both guys a lot. I'm excited for both of them. And it's a nice way to send Sam off. It's a nice way to send them off.
There's a thing gaining a bit momentum on social, Pierre. I didn't actually tell you about this yet. I thought it was pretty cool. Some fans have said that they think after Sam retires and for the rest of time, when the Rangers go on the power play in the arena, they have to have him saying, it's a Rangers play.
All right. Whenever I see Sammy, I don't think he's watching because he's probably getting ready to do a game. But every time I see him, I go, Sammy, it's a power play goal. He's so good at that.
I think it was great. Whoever thought of that, brilliant idea. I hope they do it.
Yeah, that's good. I like it too. I think that's good, Jimmy. All
right, next question. Zahal, for Laval next season, you see Montreal bringing Primo back as a mentor goaltender for Fowler, or do they bring somebody else in? I got a feeling Primo ends up somewhere else, and I just hope for him he does. He'll get a good chance somewhere else.
Yes, I agree with what Jimmy said. The one thing everybody needs to remember about Jacob Fowler is that he doesn't require waivers to go back and forth from Montreal to Laval or from Laval to Montreal. So that kind of helps. In terms of the number of recalls, people say, well, you only have so many recalls. They know that. Don't worry. That won't be an issue.
All right, next question. WK, I think Caulfield was bigger at his draft. He would have went sooner. What do you guys think? Yeah.
Yes.
Yep, for sure.
Yeah.
All right, next question. Juice _031-017. Will Scotty be on the show before the playoffs? Yep. We're just trying to figure out.
I spoke to Scotty yesterday, so the answer is yes, he will.
Yeah. Once we know, we'll let you guys know for sure. All right, next question. Ethan Russell, do you think 11 forwards and 7D will work in the playoffs for Tampa?
It has before. I don't know why it wouldn't now. Cooper's really comfortable with it. Robbie Zettler runs their defense. He's comfortable with it. I don't see that being an issue.
All right, next question. Guy Lindsay Sanat, I'm curious about your thoughts on Kirby Dach from Montreal. Do you think he has a future long-term? I do.
I'm going to say I don't.
Oh, okay.
I think he might be moved. I hate saying that too.
No.
But I think they realized, okay, he's here. This is what we got. Demidov's here now. Doc's not playing in his position. We need to. Yeah. We don't want to lose Anderson. We want to make room for Beck. They do. Owen Beck. They want to make room for Owen Beck.
Yeah.
So it makes you wonder about Christian Dvorak. So they got to find. Look, I like Jimmy. I've talked to you a lot about Owen Beck. I like Owen Beck. I just think the 2 holes too much for him next year. You're not ready. You're not ready for that yet, Jimmy.
No.
Let him play the 3 hole. They got to find. It's really important for them to find a 2-hole player.
Yeah,
it really is.
It's just tough how much bad luck injury-wise Doc's had.
For Docker, yeah, no, I feel terrible for that kid. Feel terrible.
He's a good kid. All right.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is.
Next question. Zahal, what happens to Dvorak next season? There you go. Well, we just kind of addressed
the contract is up, and I would be surprised. I would never say never after what they pulled off on Jake Evans, but I do think they want to make room for Owen Beck. And so in order for them to make room for Beck, I don't think Christian Dvorak's playing as the number 2 center for the Canadiens. So that's where I think there's an issue.
Next question. P, do you think it's possible for Farla to actually play in any Laval playoff games?
Yes.
Yes. Yep.
Yes.
Very possible. All right. Next question. Gigi, first stop in Montreal for Demidov after the airport, Chez Paris or Schwartz Deli? Well, he's with his girlfriend, so I don't think Chez Paris.
I'm going to say Chalet Barbecue.
Yeah. Yeah. What about Magpie?
Magpie for pizza.
Yeah.
I got one more. How about Vago for Italian food on Green Avenue?
There we go.
Oh, come on.
Yep.
And look at my friends own Schwartz's. I know them really well, the owners of Schwartz's. And Schwartz's is good, especially on Saturday when the lines go around the block. I get it. My mother grew up 2 blocks away from there when she was a kid in Montreal, so I know that neighborhood really well. But no, I would say Chalet Barbecue, Vago, and Magpie would be 3 good choices.
There you go. All right, next question. We done?
Shane needs to go. Shane's got a date tonight. He's got to get moving.
Right. That's right. He's a good boyfriend. He helped his girlfriend move recently. All right. We're going to get out of here. Listen, big thanks to Dan Milstein and Gold Star Hockey joining us. Ivan Demidov's agent. Really enjoyed that. Big thanks to everyone in the comments section asking your questions. Great as always. To Shane working the boards. And to all of you out there listening and watching. We appreciate it. Pierre, I will talk to you soon, my friend.
Yep, we'll talk later. And just want to say to the Shero family and everybody close to the Shero family, everybody in the hockey world is really thinking about you. They really are.
I'm getting flooded with messages to send to Pierre, to you. So just know that. Rest in peace, Ray. This has been another edition of the Eye Test on the Sick Podcast Network.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Eye Test with Pierre McGuire and Jimmy Murphy on YouTube, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.